Imagine this. It's a quiet morning. You lift a cup of tea, bring it close, breathe in the warm smell, blow once, and take a small sip. Then you set the cup down, and you don't place it on the table. You place it on a thin little saucer that has been waiting there the whole time, like it belongs. Now picture the same moment without it. A drop slides down the cup and lands where you didn't intend. Condensation builds into a pale ring. Your spoon touches the table. Nothing dramatic happens, but the scene loses its calm. The saucer turns a drink into a tiny, orderly zone, a small stage where everything has a place. So here's the question hiding in plain sight. Why does the cup come with a saucer? Is it really just decoration? Or is it quietly doing jobs we only recognize when it's gone? Let's get into it, right here on Secrets of Simple Things. The pair we stop seeing. In homes, cafes, hotels, and old family cabinets, a cup and saucer show up as a default pair. A cup on its own looks slightly unfinished, like a sentence without a period. That reaction isn't logic, it's conditioning. We've seen the pair repeated for generations, so our brains treat it as the complete picture. But complete doesn't happen by accident. Almost every everyday design that survives for centuries survives because it solved a real problem first, then became tradition later. The saucer is exactly that kind of object. Its story begins with heat, spills, and status. When hot drinks were luxury. Go back to Europe in the 1600s and 1700s. Tea, coffee, and chocolate weren't casual habits. They were expensive imports, traded across oceans, carried into cities as symbols of distance and wealth. For many people, they were rare. For the wealthy, they became ritual. Drinking wasn't only about thirst. It was a public performance, calm hands, clean linens, elegant conversation. The table mattered, the cloth mattered, the porcelain mattered. Even time mattered because having time to sit and sip was part of the message. Cafes and tea rooms became social theaters. Fashion, reputation, and gossip moved around the room as quickly as the cups. If you could hold yourself well at the table, you could hold your place in society. And in that world, a spill wasn't just a spill, it was a signal. Early porcelain cups had a problem. Many were small, thin, and painfully hot. Some designs had no handles at all. Touch the body of the cup and you burned your fingers. Set it down on fine furniture and you risked heat marks. Spill one drop onto an expensive tablecloth and you looked careless in a world obsessed with refinement. So people needed a tool, not a decoration, a tool. People drank from the saucer. Here's the part most modern viewers don't expect. The saucer wasn't originally just a base for the cup. In many settings, it was part of the drinking method. When tea or coffee was too hot, people poured a small amount into the saucer and drank from the saucer itself. It looks odd to us because we learned to treat the saucer like a plate. But back then, it was closer to a cooling tray. The science in one sentence. A shallow, wide surface releases heat faster than a deep cup. More surface area meets the air, so the drink cools quickly. Instead of waiting minutes, the drink becomes safe to sip in seconds. And it did something else just as important. It protected the scene. Any spill happened on the saucer, not on the cloth. Any overflow stayed contained. In aristocratic homes, this wasn't considered rude. It was taught. It was proper, because it showed you knew how to handle something hot without making a mess. So the saucer began as a clever solution to a simple problem. How do we drink this without burning ourselves or ruining the room? Then the handle arrived. Designs evolve. Once European countries began producing more of their own porcelain, cup shapes changed quickly, and one small innovation rewrote the ritual: the handle. With a handle, you no longer had to grip the hot body of the cup. You could lift it, sip, and set it down with control. It sounds like the saucer should have disappeared right there. But it didn't, because the handle solved only one part of the problem, your fingers. The saucer was solving the rest of the room. The saucer's second life. Once cups had handles, the saucer's job shifted from "help me drink this safely" to "help me live around this safely." It became a quiet barrier between a drink and everything you didn't want to damage. And that's why, even after the original habit of sipping from the saucer faded, the saucer itself stayed. It had become useful in a new way, less about cooling, more about control of the table, the mess, and the feeling of order. 3 quiet jobs the saucer does. First, it protects surfaces. Even today, a hot cup can leave marks, and a cold cup can leave condensation. A saucer catches the tiny drips you don't notice until they've already stained wood or left a ring on a nice table. It's a boundary line between a drink and everything you care about around it. Second, it adds stability. Many older cup designs had narrow bases, rounded bottoms, and slick-glazed porcelain. On fabric-covered tables, soft cushions, or uneven picnic setups, they tipped easily. A saucer creates a wider footprint. One thin plate dramatically reduces spills, and in eras when tableware was costly and replacements weren't easy, that mattered. Third, it carries etiquette. In certain social worlds, think Victorian England, placement became a kind of language. A cup centered neatly suggested control and polish. A saucer kept the spoon where it belonged. A messy handle, a clink too loud, a drip left behind, these tiny slips were treated like character flaws. These rules weren't really about the cup. They were about class, discipline, and the desire to look proper in a society that judged people through details. When it became a set, by the 1800s, manufacturers increasingly designed cups and saucers as inseparable pairs, matching shapes, matching glaze, matching patterns. This created what we now call a set. And sets do something psychological. When two objects are designed to match, we experience them as complete. A lone cup feels oddly unfinished, not because it can't function, but because centuries of visual tradition have trained us to expect the pair. That's why, even today, a cafe serving a cup without a saucer can feel slightly rushed, as if the drink is meant to be consumed quickly and forgotten. The saucer quietly says the opposite. This stays here. Take your time. Cleanliness as a performance. There's another role the saucer played, especially before modern dishwashers: visible cleanliness. Hot drinks drip, sugar spills, tea bags leak, stirring makes tiny splashes. A saucer contains all of that. It keeps the drinking area tidy, which mattered in public tea houses and coffee houses where presentation shaped reputation. In other words, the saucer didn't just keep things clean, it helped things look clean. And in many social spaces, looking clean was part of being respected. The myths we inherited. Because we inherited the cup and saucer tradition, it's easy to assume the saucer exists mainly for beauty. But if it were only decoration, it would have vanished the way so many decorative habits have vanished. The reason it survives is that it still solves problems quietly, problems we don't notice until we have to deal with them. Another myth is that drinking from the saucer is automatically bad manners. In most modern settings, it would feel out of place. But historically, it wasn't inherently rude. It was practical. It was context. It was a solution for heat in a world without insulation, without to-go lids, and without hurry. You don't need to bring the habit back. You just need to understand what it reveals. The saucer once mattered as much as the cup. Around the world, it lasted longer. There's also a global side to this story. In Russia and parts of Central Asia, the practice of pouring tea into the saucer and sipping from it lasted much longer than it did in Western Europe. It appears in cultural memories and literature. Pour, blow, sip carefully, then refill. That tradition makes the point even clearer. The saucer was not a side object. For many people, it was a core part of how humans learned to handle hot liquids safely. The extra plate was, for a long time, the real solution. Why it refused to disappear. Modern life tried to make saucers obsolete. Travel mugs, paper cups, takeaway culture, everything moved towards speed and fewer dishes. And yet saucers stayed in homes, cafes, and restaurants because they carry meaning beyond function. A cup with a saucer suggests stay. It signals comfort, pause, conversation. It makes the drink feel intentional instead of rushed. It also solves small problems all at once. It catches drips you don't notice. It holds your spoon so the table stays clean. It gives a place for a used tea bag, a sugar packet, a lemon slice, a biscuit, tiny companions that would otherwise clutter the moment. The saucer is doing multiple jobs, and it does them without asking for attention. The saucer as a pause button. There's a reason a cup with a saucer feels warmer than a disposable cup ever could. It creates a two-step ritual. Lift, sip, then return. That return matters. It gives your hands a place to stop. It gives your eyes a place to rest. It gives the conversation a beat to continue. The saucer doesn't force you to slow down, but it makes slowing down easier. And in a modern day built around speed, that's not a small thing. A small tool that shaped how we gather. So the next time you notice a saucer under your cup, remember, you're holding history. You're also holding an idea. That comfort isn't only taste, it's design. It's the small decisions that make a table feel safe, clean, and welcoming. You're touching a design that began as a way to survive scalding heat, evolved into a shield for delicate furniture, and then became a quiet symbol of hospitality. It cooled drinks. It prevented spills. It performed class. It shaped etiquette. And it helped create the kind of table where people sit, talk, and connect. If you want one simple piece of advice, it's this. When you can, let the saucer do its work. Use it as a small signal to slow down, set the cup down, rest your hands, and let the moment breathe. And if you enjoy these hidden histories inside everyday objects, you'll find plenty more right here on Secrets of Simple Things.